You want my middle name too?
No.
So I guess you don't want any accents either. Hello. Hey guys. Hey guys.
What are some of the things that you do that you think makes you a guy?
Pee standing up? Just kidding.
Who knew pee in public would be so beneficial to me?
I don't pee in public, I just pee here because I'm outside and no one's around.
And just their mannerisms are kind of like, I don't give a care about anything in this world. I'm with my friends, it's my buddies.
Like when we go rock climbing, and you saw how we are rock climbing, like it's like half the time we're up the wall, the other rest of the time we're like hanging around down on the ground just like bullshitting about stuff, and we'll talk about like how should I shave my beard into a crazy mustache, or like should I cut the hair, what if I did like a samurai top knot, or like, you know, we'll talk about it, but just I guess in a different way than girls would.
I think the masculinity stems from being comfortable with oneself.
You know, if you provide for your family and like you work hard and, you know, do what you gotta do, like raise your kids, be good to your wife or whatever, your husband, if you're gay, whatever, like if you're all that, then you're a man.
What's interesting is, you know, there's a lot of research that suggests that a lot of what comes across as ideal masculinity or ideal femininity in a given society are the markers of wealth or social status, right? So in the 19th century, Shane would have been regarded as an ideal man because the big muscular tan guy was the guy out working in the fields.
Yeah.
And that meant he didn't have money, wasn't successful. It was the small, thin, pale guy who was witty and charming because he spent all his time reading books. Those are the things that signaled successful masculinity.
Shit. Oh my god. I already want to spend more money to get more guns. Yeah, I'm probably going to this week.
When I was growing up in the 1980s, there were three sort of very different images of masculinity. There was Sylvester Stallone and the sort of hyper-masculine, hyper-macho, non-communicative, violent male. But then the other two images that I had in the 1980s were Alan Alda and who played Hawkeye Pierce in MASH, and Michael J. Fox, both of whom were witty and charming, and Michael J. Fox's character was known for dressing up and being more professional in his appearance. And Alan Alda, both the actor and the character, were understood to be more sensitive men than your typical male. So there were these sort of conflicting images in my time, my youth, of what constituted masculinity. There's still conflicting images today. And I think the fundamental effect of this is that it creates real and ongoing anxiety. You can never be sure you're the right kind of man.
Everybody questions themselves. You know, you're never at the top of the heap, so yeah, I guess you're always being checked as a male in our society.
I don't know, like I never think about stuff like that. Like, I think gender roles are kind of weird. And like, I don't know. I really don't know how to answer that. I can't think of anything.
Please welcome from Chicago, Gary Park. Tim Hayes, everybody. Tim Hayes. My women friends are always commenting on my outfit. I don't think in terms of outfits. When I get dressed, all I'm thinking is whether or not I look too gay. A little gay's okay. It's cool if I look good dancing to Lady Gaga at a club, but it's so not cool if I look like Lady Gaga.
I like reading GQ. I like dressing well. I like having immaculate hygiene. I like to take care of my hair. I like to be properly groomed. That entails like my face.
The ideal man is really a struggle over what the ideal man is in any given moment. And the same is true, for example, with Charlie Sheen. On the one level, Charlie Sheen is an extension of something that I've commented on in my classes all the time, which is that the primary way to perform masculinity right now, the primary way, I would argue, but not the only way, is to not give a damn. And that is to visibly not give a damn. So you wear clothes that are brand label clothes, but they look shabby, and you wear them without a belt, and you wear your shirt untucked, and you have gel in your hair, but you purposefully muss it to make it look like you just got out of bed, but not really. And so, you know, and Charlie Sheen, people who say Charlie Sheen doesn't give a shit, you know, of course he does. He cares a great deal about what people think about him. That's why he goes on television and does interviews. That's why he did the tour circuit for a while. But he works very hard to perform the identity of someone who is unconcerned with others' views of himself. And that's one sense in which masculinity typically is defined in opposition to femininity. Femininity, as it's performed especially on this campus and in many other parts of America, is defined by attention to personal appearance. So masculinity must be, I don't care about my personal appearance, and by extension, I don't care what people think of me.
Yeah, I only shave because I have to. None of this would have been acceptable at my last job. I would have had to, like, gel this back completely, put it in a ponytail, have it be clean shaven, or else if it was a beard, it would have to be, you know, trimmed down all the way and, like, neatly done up here and everything. I couldn't just let it, like, wild grow.
Well, I think the best way of addressing the issue of what is the ideal man, what is the ideal woman, is that it's a football, as it were, in a very highly contested game where all the players are struggling to push the image of ideal masculinity in directions they like or value. And in the process, again, the people who are sort of caught in the middle trying to figure out who they are presented with multiple images. So, to go back to the 1950s, there are at least two very different images of ideal masculinity in the 1950s. One is the television image, which is the sanitized breadwinner, knowledgeable, quietly confident male. The other is James Dean, Rebel Without a Cause, Marlon Brando on the Waterfront, the tough, brooding rebel who can't fit in and who is rebelling against everything. And really, you can see in those two forces sort of the setup to the 1960s on a certain level, right? There's, at post-World War II, there's a lot of men who simply want to come home and settle down and start a life and be calm and happy. But there's also a lot of social change happening during the 1950s that's happening very much under the surface for a lot of men and women. But it's still happening, and that tension is being reflected in those rebellious characters.
Yeah, it's really hard. I have to, like, eat so much. Actually, I was complaining about that to my friend Zach, who I climb with today. I was like, I have to shit so much now because I eat all the time. It's true. I used to, like, because I would, you know, when you sit around, you lead a sedentary life. You don't really have to eat much, so you don't really take a shit much. And now I eat, like, all the time. if I'm not eating, my body's gonna like, you know, lose its mass.
I wasn't comfortable with myself anymore. I looked at myself in the mirror one day and I decided like I didn't like what I saw. So I changed it.
There's always testing going on. There's always the pressure of what it is to be a man, what it is to be a male.
Masculinity is a moving target. I think it's always been a moving target, and it remains a moving target with a practical consequence of always keeping men anxious about whether or not they're performing their masculinity properly.
People need to take charge of their life.
My teacher.
How society just has like stupid views on masculinity and what people like. It's not just a masculinity thing. It's just our society has a problem in general with you should be blank, like whatever, fill in blank. Like you should be more manly. You should be more womanly. You should be skinnier. You should be fatter. You should be more muscles. You should make more money. You should do this. You should do this. And it's just like it. Why can't everybody just do what they want to do? Like I feel like that would make our society a lot happier and less stressed out all the time. Like everyone thinks like, oh, I have to be doing this, but I'm not doing this, so I'm doing something wrong, and oh, I gotta freak out about it. Like, yeah.
If you are comfortable with yourself, you don't care what kind of music. If somebody's, oh my God, I can't believe you listen to that music. Nobody listens to that. Well, I do. I don't really care what you think. It's mine, and you know, I like to read literature. I like to read things about history. People don't want to spend time reading history. I read that. I think a lot of masculinity nowadays stems from being comfortable with oneself.
To educate yourself, to build yourself up physically and spiritually and mentally. So I think you have to really grab hold and separate yourself from the things that you are exposed to that are superficial.